Okay, welcome back. My name is David Blissett, and in this specific video clip, we're going to be detailing animation layers. Now, you're going to often have scenarios where you're happy with your base animation and you don't necessarily want to affect what's going on within that specific workflow, and how you deal with that type of scenario is you go ahead and you have additional layers. So let's come up with a scenario for this specific character. We've got this principle, we've got this uppercut here, which I've just gone ahead and downloaded, and let's see if we can play it through now. Yeah, we've got this nice uppercut that we want Jason, that's the name of the character, to be able to apply. Now, within the base layer, we've got the feeding animation, we've got the turning left and the turning right. So it's getting a bit cluttered in here now. So how about we go ahead and add a new layer for the uppercut. So we're going to call this uppercut layer. And like we've been doing so far, we need parameters to control what we're actually doing. So we're going to have a new flag within the base layer, or just a new parameter in general, and we're going to call it is uppercut. Yeah, let's get creative. Is uppercut, or is doing uppercut. How about that? Right? So let's return to the new layer and calling this uppercut layer, and we are going to create a new state. First, we want an empty state, right? And this state here, we're going to call it empty state. And the reason for that is empty is so that we don't have the base configuration being overridden by default. What do I mean by that? If you notice, in the base layer, we have the idle pose. We don't want, when the character has been activated, its uppercut animation starting by default. So by putting this empty state here, it means that we don't have to worry about this specific layer being automatically activated. Another thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go in here and set the weighting for this specific layer. I'm going to turn this all the way up to 1, and what that does, it says if any activity is triggered for this layer, give it a higher priority than the base layer. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is actually bring the uppercut into this specific state machine, right? So as usual, we're going to want to have transition. So we're going to have a transition going from the uppercut to the empty state, which would be a return, and the default, which is going to be going to the actual uppercut itself. So let's go into both and make sure that we have exit time switched off. We may need to actually have one of them switched on, but for the time being, we'll leave that as it is. And going into the uppercut, obviously, we're going to want to make sure that we have that flag is doing uppercut set to true. And when we finish, we want to make sure that is uppercut is set to false. Right? Now, if you think about it, if you're halfway through an uppercut, you're going to want that transition to complete. You want the animation sequence, to fully run through. So let's go ahead and make sure that this does have an exit time. And if you recall from the previous videos, has exit time ensures that the entire animation sequence will play through before coming to a stop, right? So let's go ahead and see what that does. So let's play this as it stands now. Okay, so if you noticed, immediately as we started, the uppercut layer was activated. We can go back down to the base layer, the idle is there, but it is the empty state that's actually being driven. So let's go ahead and do the uppercut. Straight away our character goes into fighting mode. It does it only once If I switch that off, if I go into a feeding state, the character goes into a feeding state. If I go ahead and make the turning state change to number 1, we go ahead and we're doing a turn, set that back to 0, and then we go ahead and do another uppercut. Boom. So there it is. You have the ability to have additional layers for which you can override the base layer, and you build layer upon top of layer, and then at the same time you have this weighting principle for which each additional layer on top can have a specific weighting to ensure that the layers below understand the precedence that they're supposed to have in terms of the order of the actual actions that we're trying to implement. We're going to stop the video there. That's how we work with layers. And in the next video, we're going to actually look on extending what we're currently doing in terms of adding additional states. All right. Thanks again for watching.